If you're like me, this is your first time with a GoPro of any sort. And if you're like me, you want to know how to use the user interface so that you can navigate and correctly use your GoPro. Hello, I'm Wanderer001 and this is going to be a walkthrough of the user interface for the GoPro Hero 10. This is actually my first GoPro product, so I thought I would share a little helpful information that I found while actually utilizing the GoPro. Maybe this is your first GoPro and you don't necessarily know all the things that you're looking at, but want to learn how to use them so that you can more effectively use your GoPro Hero 10. The GoPro itself is actually broken up into 3 separate screen areas. This first screen is actually your recording screen, and we'll talk about this before we move on to the other screens. However, all of the screens can be navigated through using gesture controls. A swipe up from the bottom or a swipe down from the top will bring us to the other 2 screens that I had mentioned. Starting at the top, I'll get my little pointer stick here. You have your battery indicator as well as a little visual icon letting you know how much power is left. If this is green, you know you're good. You can see mine is starting to sneak into the yellow, so that means that, well, I should consider swapping out my battery for a new one. You'll notice every time I touch the screen, I send the icons away. There is a bit of a delay when you touch your screen, so don't think of it exactly as a smartphone screen where instantaneously things will happen. There is a slight delay. There are 3 icons at the top here, a dot, a record, and a dot. These indicate your other 2 record modes, and that would be photo or time lapse. You access these by swiping either right for photo or left for time lapse. We'll talk about those separate ones a little later. Over here in the upper left-hand corner, you can see the time you have available based on the SD card, and down here, your recording preferences. Over here on the left, you have your slow-mo. Right now I have it set for 2, but if I tap on that, it's because I have 1080 set for 60 frames a second. If I put my pointer stick down and I grab and drag this up, you can see that frames per second is increasing or decreasing depending on where I have it. I like it at 60 frames for what I'm doing. And you either tap to bring it away or it will go away on its own. Now over here we have our horizon lock in the lower left. If I select that, we can change our horizon lock. Right now I have it on linear plus horizon leveling, meaning I kind of squished it in. I don't like the fisheye look that you get with GoPros sometimes on some of the settings. Here we have narrow. You can see that really cropped it in based on what we're looking at underneath. Maybe I could tilt this up slightly so you could see. So that's narrow. Here's what I had it originally. So that's linear with horizon lock. So I can tilt this, and really it's not going to do anything until I get to almost here before it starts tilting the horizon. Go up to linear. So that's wider screen but doesn't have the horizon lock. And we're going to go up to wide so you see more of what's going on in the background there. And then super wide, you really see everything that's going on over on that side. I am going to bring it down back to linear with horizon lock. So that's going to crop it in, but you're going to have it where it stabilizes your horizon. You're going to have the ability to have this bouncing around and have the horizon stay in focus. Over here on the right, we have our image stabilization option. Tapping this, we can see right now I have it on high. If we drag this up, you have boosted for super smooth. Could drag this down to standard, so you'll still get a little bit of wiggle, and then off completely means you'll get a lot of wiggle. I like it on high, so it's not super cropped in, not super stabilized, because I do want a little bounce. Over here, based on some of your selections, you will have the option for zoom. If I tap on zoom, it will actually zoom in, and here we'll use my horrible setup over there and chair. We can drag this up to zoom in or drag it back, and depending on what mode you're in is how much zoom you can actually have. Keep in mind that it is digital zoom, not optical zoom, so it's all going to be based on algorithms, not actual zooming. If you don't like any of these options here or here, you simply can hold on that icon and be brought to other things that you can change that with. So that was hyper smooth. You can kind of go through there. I'm not going to change it because I kind of liked the setup that it started with. But if you don't, you can always change that. Down here, this is actually the shooting mode. And if I select this, it will bring up some of the preset shooting modes. So I had standard, active, and cinematic, and then ultra slow-mo and basic. All of these are editable, as well as over here, you can rearrange them. Now, there is a limited number that you can have. So if you've run out, you either could create your own on some of the other areas, which I'll show you, or you could take one of the ones that is pre-existing and select the edit icon, which is what I did. Here you can see your resolution, which this is 1080 by 60. If we select this, we have lots of options. We can go up to 5K, here's 4K, here's 2K, and then settings all within, and then a master display right here, letting you know what mode you're in. I'm gonna tap the center, so I go back. Here is your lens, so that's that linear that we were talking about over here on the side. So we can make a selection from here. Again, here's our hyper smooth. We talked about that, but that was a quick shortcut on the other screen. Schedule capture, this is very nice if you want to actually specify a time for your GoPro to actually start either recording or taking pictures. In this case, it would be recording. So if you want to catch something, hypothetically a sunset or a sunrise, and you're not a morning or night person, you could set your GoPro up to do that for you, which is a great feature to have. Duration, again, for those settings, right now it's set for no limit, but we can go all the way up to 3 hours and have slight intervals in between. So if you only want your sunrise for 2 hours, you select 2 hours, or if you just want to catch a time lapse of what's going on, you could set that for a longer duration. Hindsight, what this will allow you to do is if you start capturing something late, hindsight will allow you to catch previous actions of your video or photo before they actually happen. So you can drag this up and that will get you 15 seconds of hindsight or 30 seconds. Right now I'm not using hindsight because hindsight is going to use more battery than if you don't have it on. And if you don't have replacement batteries yet, might want to not play with hindsight just yet. We're going to scroll down because here we have timer, kind of self-explanatory. Zoom, right there. I have the zoom set for the standard none. And again, that zoom was available over there in the corner. Here we have really things if you want to get granular controls with your videos or photos. I'm just going to show you what's here, but not play with them, and you shouldn't play with them either unless you're comfortable making these types of changes on either a cell phone or a digital SLR. So you've got your bit rate, your shutter, your EV comp, white balance, ISO min, ISO max, sharpness, color, raw, wind, and media mode. So I'll talk about these very quickly. So sharpness, as you might expect, how sharp your video looks. So here if we come up, try and get that into focus again. It's not going to show too well on my chair back there, but we've got our color. So color capture for photo and video. You've got neutral, flat. You can kind of see down here on my table. Come up to neutral, and then we're going to come up to vibrant. So for those who have seen GoPro photos and you see the sky where it really looks blue, 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 that's that top level right there, super saturated. I like more of a muted color palette, so I left it on neutral. Raw audio, so we can turn this on, record standard audio without raw audio tracks, bringing that up, processing, medium, high. Again, if you don't know what that is, probably should avoid it. And wind, right now it's on automatic for wind reduction, but you can turn always on or off entirely. So if you leave it on auto, it will try and figure out what the best audio is based on a situation. And then shortcuts, here you go. If you want to change your shortcuts, you can do it here as well. And then you can restore your defaults if you, well, I can't really see that that says restore default. Wow, that there says restore. So if you need to restore your defaults, that's where you would go and do that. I'm gonna select back. And that was adjusting one of our video shooting. You can do that for everyone there. We're gonna select back because that brings us back to this part. And we're going to quickly swipe over to the right. And that brings us to our photo mode. And similarly to what we had with our video mode, you have some shortcut keys right here. There's our zoom, which we already know what that does. But you can kind of see right there in the corner, because this particular photo mode is a little more fisheye. You can see my drink just sitting off in the corner. Because over here on the left, the lens is set for wide. If I crop this in, you'll notice you no longer see that on the side, and then that really focuses in on the grain on my desk. So we're gonna put that back to linear, because I never really changed that. Over here, we have our time delay. If I push the button to take a photo, how long will it wait before it actually takes that photo? So this is really good if you need to set up a tripod and get into the shot, because you got to remember, you've got your front-facing screen there so you can line things up and then get into your shot. Over here on the right, we've got our photo mode. So I have it on HDR. You can bring it up to super photo. So again, that's going to be your GoPro style super saturated. Going to bring that down to HDR again, and then standard, and then raw. So we're going to go back to HDR and then our zoom. If we select photo, just like we did with our video, we have every ability to edit or change any of these. So you've got photo, live burst, and night photo. I'm not gonna lie, night photo, probably not the best. The GoPro does not really handle very well in nighttime situations. Burst mode, just like it sounds, you take a bunch of pictures all in one. Live burst is gonna give you that 30-second back and then take a photo, and then you have your photo, which is just click, take a photo. If we come over to the edit, we can change all of this. So again, lens, output, schedule, timer, zoom, and then all the stuff that we could edit before. We're not gonna go through that because, well, we've already done that. And then select back up here and then back one more time. So that's our photo section right here. Now I'm gonna swipe to the left once for video and then one more time for time lapse. You'll notice there's a lot less shortcut options on the screen. You've got your zoom over here on the right, and then over on the left, if we click on this, this is our focal again. So if I bring this up, that's our wide view, and then all the way down is our super cropped in narrow view. We'll go back to linear and select OK. You'll notice that the amount of time has been changing. The amount of time has been changing based on what screen I'm on and what options I have selected. So that's 9 hours for that. Photos, it will show you a number of photos. So I've got 999 plus. But when we're over in time lapse, I only have 4 hours of availability for my particular SD card. If we come up to time lapse, we've got 3 choices of time lapse. We've got time warp, time lapse, and night lapse. So we'll start with the middle. Time lapse is just that. It's taking a bunch of photos and then stitching them together, and it makes it look like a cool time lapse video. Time warp does the same thing, but offers some image processing to kind of smooth them out. The one problem I had with this is my wife and I tried to test out time warp while she was holding the GoPro and facing forward while we're driving through Gettysburg, and because of that processing, the video actually looked like it was going left and right. So if you're going to use time warp, it is highly suggested that you use it mounted to either a stand or flat on a surface so it's not moving around. Night lapse, again, similar to time lapse, but it's got night settings. I tested it. It's not great, again, because the GoPro doesn't really perform well at night. Just like anything else, if we come up, we can click the pencil to the right of the thing and make changes to resolution, lens, speed, speed ramp, schedule capture, duration, and all those extra functions that you probably shouldn't mess with unless you know what you're doing. But these are a fun thing to play with if you are looking for having clouds roll through the sky, sunrise, sunset, or just want to watch people going back and forth really, really fast in a given location. So that is our time lapse. As promised, if we scroll up from the bottom, this is actually our, and we're going to pause that, our video review. So if I come to the left-hand corner there, I can see all of the things that I've actually done. You can see I was on vacation testing out the GoPro, and selecting any one of these will play the video. So here we go. This is that time warp that I was trying, and you'll notice that it keeps shifting over there to the left and then centers itself again when she moves it. And it's just make sure you do something mounted. You have information up here in the upper right hand corner of the video. You have delete the video. You have sound if you don't want to play sound. And then this is actually a scrub, so you can scrub through whatever video you happen to be looking through. And we're going to go back to the overall view, because you can select upper right hand corner to select, and you can go select, 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 and then delete mass things from your camera without having to open up the app, or take the SD card out and plug it into something. We're going to select back one more time and pull this down, because that was our video review section, and then we're going to pull it down from the top, because what this area is actually our settings shortcut. So you got lots of extra things that you can do from here. The time and day in the upper right hand corner. GPS is on, but the application is not, because it's not actively attached to my cell phone right now. The lower left-hand corner here, this is a lightning bolt, and yellow, they put that, GoPro added that in a update in order to keep the GoPro from overheating. By default, it's on, which means you don't make any changes. It's exactly as it should be from factory, but if you're going to be testing it and leaving it on the table and not moving it around, you can turn that off and the GoPro will be less likely to overheat. Likewise, over here in the lower right-hand corner, this is for the Max mod, which is not out yet at current date of filming, right there, 11/23. So selecting that will give you something saying that you need a firmware, but it's not out yet because it's still in the beta channel. Over here in the upper left-hand corner, this is if you want to be able to give your GoPro vocal commands. This is interesting, but at the same time not great because that's going to use more battery, and you can have people kind of come up behind you and say blah blah blah, do something. You don't want that. Right here, this is sound effects, so chirping noises when you power on or take a picture. This will allow you to toggle on and off quick capture, which is nice, but can also burn through your battery. Here you have your screen lock, so if you need to keep the screen from doing something, you have a quick toggle for your screen lock. Right here, this is for your front screen display. So toggling this will show you what do you want your front screen to do. You can have it do nothing. You can have it display only the pertinent information. Here you have your full capture mode or your cropped in capture mode. And what do I mean by that? Well, right now, that is the cropped in. You are looking at my lamp over on the side. But if I flip this around and do actual capture and flip this around again, you'll notice that it kind of has black bars up and down, but you see more of the photo there. That would be used for people who want to get everything in their shot. This one more so if you want to make sure that you are centered in the shot. Last but not least, here is orientation lock, which selecting orientation lock, you can lock it in a particular orientation. We're not going to, we're gonna let that free float as we like. You'll notice that there is one of two dots at the top, so we're gonna scroll over to the right and well, guess what? There are more options and features here. You have your connection type right there, so selecting connection will allow you to wirelessly connect, and doing this, you can have it on or off. We're gonna select back. Device control through the GoPro app or a remote, and camera info, Wi-Fi band produced by the GoPro itself when you're connecting, and then reset connections if you want. We're gonna select back because that was just our connections. As you might imagine, this sprocket wheel over here with preferences is where every other option is. You can get lost in all of the options here. Starting off, you've got your general, you've got beep volume, quick capture, default presets, auto power on and off. This is important if you want to save your battery, have that power off a little more often, a little sooner. You have LEDs on or off, again, front. Anti-flicker is important if you're filming in a location that uses different frequencies for LEDs. By default US, it's got 60 Hertz. If you're traveling, you might need to change that, so that's where you would do that. Video compression. This is an important thing to consider if you are using an older video editing program or an older computer that you haven't updated your codecs. This, when I first got it, is a newer codec that my computer could not understand. You can select this and have it do the old H.264 plus the HEVC. So you'll have kind of two files. Come on. You'll have two files there, but your older computers and video editing programs would be able to understand it. You have time, you have date, so if you need to manually change those, and then date format, you can change that right there. And selecting back. Coming down to voice controls. Selecting this, on or off, what the language is, and then here it will give you a command list in case you need to know what commands you can give to your GoPro. Very handy if you plan to use voice controls. We're gonna select back. We've got our display, orientation, all or landscape, screensaver rear, that's when it blacks out the rear screen. I have it set for a minute. Screensaver front matches rear, or you can have it separate. Brightness, as you might imagine, brightness of your screen. Rear screen grid, well, what's that? We're gonna turn that on and then come back and back one more time to show you what that looks like. Might be a little tricky to see on my table, but if I aim that, actually, if I bring it over to video, it's probably a little easier. You can see it's actually a grid on the screen. That's to help with lining up your shots. Here you have regional, GPS on or off, and language, mods. So right now, max mod, it's showing, or you have media mod, which right now is not active. But if you had the media mod, which is the case that goes around it with the better audio input, you would see it listed there. If you don't want it, you can say hide and then you don't see it. So if you're not going to get the max mod, that might be a good idea. Scrolling down, about, well, that's going to give you information about GoPro updates, camera info, or battery info. Here's your regulation, so all that legal stuff. And then reset, like if you really need to reset your GoPro, that's where you can come and do that. So that is also what the battery looks like at 10%, so green, yellow, or red, you'll know what you're looking at. This has been a longer look than most at the GoPro Hero 10 user interface, but like I said, if you're like me and this is your first GoPro and you need to know how to navigate your way around this device, hopefully this will help you do that and not have to hunt and peck around like I did, or look through other videos that only vaguely talk about the user interface. With that being said, I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching. Extra tip that's not entirely included with the user interface, but your power button over here on the left of your device can be used to cycle through your options, photo, time lapse, and the video function if you can't touch the screen because it's wet or have it locked. Likewise, if we scroll down and we set up quick capture, if we turn our GoPro completely off and wait for that, whatever your top item in your list, whether it's video, photo, or quick capture, and whatever you have set as your default, you can come over and press the top button here, and right there, it jumps right into my top level video. And when I'm done, I simply click it off. Keep in mind that using the quick capture mode will use up more battery. If you're not going to be using your GoPro for any length of time, make sure to keep that off to help preserve your battery.
If you found this video helpful, consider giving it a like, as that will help other people find the video as well. If you like what I'm doing here, you can always help fuel the next review by buying me a coffee, link in the description below. Last but not least, if you want to be notified when I upload a new video, you know what to do.